CHSR 97.9 Instant Breakfast here on this Thursday morning, May the 3rd. I'm your host, Tammy, and I have my co-host, John, with me today.
Good morning. We're here with some visitors to talk about mental health. We thought that we would start with a video by Amelia Curran, who is an advocate for mental health. She's a singer-songwriter in Newfoundland, and she has been a leader in the region in raising awareness about mental health. So she put out a video in 2014. It was in cooperation with 17 other musicians and a number of people in the community. And we're going to start by playing that. In the video, they're holding up poster cards and displaying statistics about mental health. So as the song plays, we will read these statistics and give you a sense of some of the challenges that people face with mental health.
1, 2, 3.
Listen, 100% of Canadians are affected by mental illness through friends or family. 42% say they would not socialize with a person with a mental illness. And 46% think mental illness is an excuse for bad behavior. It doesn't have to be this way. The disease burden of mental illness is 1.5 times higher than all forms of cancer, yet only 6% of healthcare dollars are devoted to mental health. 80% of people with depression will respond well to treatment, but 90% cannot access these treatments. Depression is the fourth leading cause of death in the world. It is predicted to be the second by the year 2020. It doesn't have to be this way. 80 to 90% of seniors in long-term health care facilities suffer from depression. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among youth aged 10 to 19. 70% of adults with a mental illness develop symptoms during youth. Every week, 500,000 Canadians will miss work due to a mental health issue. 4,000 people die from a mental illness every year in Canada. 40% of people who suffer from depression have never seen a doctor. 33% of all hospitalizations in Canada are related to mental illness. Emergency workers are twice as likely to develop PTSD. It takes an average of 8 years to be correctly diagnosed as bipolar. It doesn't have to be this way. Listen, mental illness is not criminal. Someone with a mental illness is no more likely to commit an act of violence than the general population. Depression is not a trend. Mental illness does not discriminate. You are not alone. A hospital can be a safe place. Because someone has a mental illness does not mean they are not strong, does not mean they are not normal, doesn't mean they are lazy or broken, doesn't mean they did something to deserve it, doesn't mean they are not capable of greatness. We can break the silence. Don't be afraid. Let's do this. We need to end the stigma. We need more mental health care workers. We need to treat people, not age. We need a 24/7 mobile crisis unit. We need to end the stigma. I am a human being. This is all of us. Together. We can change the system. I can change the system. You are not alone.
Beautiful. That is such a great video. For those of you who haven't seen it, you should check it out. It is, do you have the link to that, John, by any chance? If you don't, it's okay.
We will paste it on our
Yes.
Instant Breakfast New Brunswick Facebook page. It's a video by Amelia Curran called This Video.
We have with us today a great group featuring Brittany McQuinn, the lovely Brittany McQuinn, and so good to see you, Brittany. And we also have Lori, the Director of Communications for the Canadian Mental Health. And we have JM and Tom and Krista. Do you guys want to start out?
Thank you guys so much for having us here. We're pretty excited about our event coming up on Monday. We've had this little group chat on Facebook, and we're just talking every day about it and making plans and kind of supporting each other. It's we're going to be sharing songs and stories behind those songs in a songwriter circle. And for some of us, it's the first time we've shared these stories. For some people, we've shared them before, or maybe we're going to take a different angle at it, or there's a new song. I think maybe I'm going to ask Lori to give a background behind the concept behind the event, how it got started.
So, A Day in Their Shoes, a songwriter circle is what the theme is this year, but A Day in Their Shoes is the overall concept. Comes from the fact that not only does a person suffer from a mental health issue or a mental illness, their family, their friends, their loved ones do as well. So when we decided to put together this, last year was our inaugural year. We did it kind of as a variety show with a fashion show, and the models were our storytellers. So all the models had mental health issues, whether it was depression, PTSD, what have you. And so they told their stories, and then their partners told their stories from the perspective of the caregiver. So this year we wanted to change it up because, mental health is never the same in one person. So we will change up the show from year to year as well. And so this year we're doing a songwriter circle. It comes from a past experience that I've had attending songwriter circles at East Coast Music Awards, which we all know is coming up this weekend. And I really love the concept of hearing the stories and hearing what inspired the musicians to write their stories, and then hearing the song. So I really love that idea, and I guess about a year ago I met JM at a fundraising event that the Canadian Mental Health Association was doing in Oromocto, and when JM was telling me his story, and then when I heard his voice, I was amazed. And so we've done a few collaborations together, but this is the big one for us. And I really wanted to, work. They have a fellowship, and they meaning veterans have a fellowship, and JM can talk a little bit about that. So we have 3 guys from the fellowship. We have Brittany McQuinn, we have Martin Ingersoll, and she's going to be a poet, and our host for the evening is Tom Swift. Tom doesn't really need an introduction here in Fredericton.
No.
But, I reached out to Tom, and I asked him would he come and host this, and there was no hesitation whatsoever. So he's thrilled to be on board. So he'll host this on Monday night with 6 songwriters, singers, and a poet included in that 6.
Wow, that's fantastic. And that starts at 7:30, right?
It starts at 7:30 at the Delta. Doors open at 6. Doors open at 6:30. So the room is going to be set up so there are going to be tables. So there'll be tables of 6 that people can sit around and, have a drink and listen to some great music and hear some inspiring stories.
That is so awesome. And all the funds raised stay right here in Fredericton.
They do,
right?
yeah. Tickets are available for $25 at Reed's Newsstand in Fredericton, Griffin's Pub in Oromocto. You can pick them up at our office on Regent Street, and as well on Eventbrite. But also on Eventbrite, we have a limited number of tickets for a pay what you can, so that we can have it more accessible to everybody. So we need you to go to Eventbrite, buy those tickets, and we'll see you on Monday night.
And what is the link for Eventbrite?
I think if you just go to
It'll come
eventbrite.ca
up? Okay.
and you search out A Day in Their Shoes.
Okay.
Or you
very
can go
good.
to the CMHA Facebook page, CMHA of New Brunswick Facebook page, and we're sharing all the time, so you can do a click through there.
Okay.
Krista Baldwin is here with us. She's the Executive Director of the Canadian Mental Health Association here in New Brunswick.
Hi, Krista. How are you?
Hi.
It's nice to have you here.
Thanks.
I don't know if you heard the Amelia Curran video that we played
Many
in the
times, and
lobby.
I've met Amelia a few times to discuss the video. It's just brilliant.
And she's been a very powerful advocate for mental health in the region, has she not?
Absolutely.
I've heard her interviewed on CBC about this, and I remember her saying that one of the most difficult things was to actually step out and make public issues about mental health, that there's a stigma attached to mental health issues, and it becomes very difficult to make that known to other people. There's a lot of fear wrapped around that. Could you tell us a little bit about that, elaborate on that idea of the stigma attached to having a mental health issue?
Yes. I think society has made progress in terms of the stigma component. We still have a lot of work to do. That's the importance of events like this, A Day in Their Shoes. People are coming forward, they're putting their faces at the forefront of mental illness. So people who may have some struggles or may feel in a dark place and feel helpless, they're able to look at individuals and hear their stories and feel something resonate with them, that they are going through similar things. And when we have these strong individuals on the stage sharing their stories, showing that recovery is possible, that is so powerful. It instills hope in people. And that in itself can be the very important component to move people through their mental health journey or to get that started.
Because there's a myth that mental health issues don't happen to people that you would recognize, people who are role models already in society, that they've solved all of their problems and it just doesn't happen to them. But that's not really the case at all, is it?
Well, we know how silly and unrealistic that is. Mental health can impact anybody. And actually, as we kick off Mental Health Week next week, our features used to be around 1 in 5 individuals have mental illness. So our theme this year is we're going to look at the 5 in 5 people who have mental health, because we need to be more proactive. We need to talk about self-care and wellness. We have so much work to do.
Yeah. I mean, if it's something that's been hidden, then those solutions are not communicated properly, are they?
That's right. And I think as a society, we need to move to the point of mental illness is not a weakness. Someone has an illness, someone has a heart attack, they're able to talk about that. They have people visit their home with casseroles and get well cards and flowers. Someone goes through a mental illness struggle. They don't have those get well cards. You go to different card stores, there's not a section for mental illness. There's a section for other components. But that's where we need to move.
Yeah.
Illness is illness is illness.
I can tell you when she talks about the 5 in 5, there's 5 of us right here that have all experienced some kind of a mental health issue. So we're not the 1 in 5, we're the 5 in 5.
That's right,
sitting here.
absolutely.
It's really a whole
Six of us in here, right?
Okay.
it's really a whole range of different states of being. I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whether it's a situational mental health issue, a temporary drop in well-being, an actual diagnosis of a mental illness, there's many different forms of it.
So maybe you could explain to our audience some of those different forms, because I think there's a sense that mental health issues are debilitating, and that when you have one, you basically are shut off from society. You shut yourself off from society, but that's not necessarily true. You can function within society with a mental health issue and appear normal. So what are those different gradations of mental health?
So the first statement I'll say is that people with mental illness are normal, and their skills, they contribute to community and society the same way as the general population. We are part of the general population. There shouldn't be that stigma and that segregation component that some people reference. I'll go back to the 5 in 5, and I think that's where we need to move as a society. It's not the 1 in 5, it's the 5 in 5, and how do we be proactive, and how do we talk about self-care, wellness for everybody. As a society, we are living in this fast-paced world where, we can never do one thing at a time. It's always multitasking. We don't give ourselves that downtime. And I think that's having a huge impact on the way we function as a society and our mental health and wellness.
And it could present itself, if you're going through a situation, it could be the loss of a job or, the loss of a loved one or, something that was dear to you that is no longer. And, it's a matter of how you deal with it. And that's what we call a situational mental health issue, which is what I was afflicted with, and twice. But that stigma still exists. I mean, it was interesting. We have a guy who's going to MC the night on Monday night for A Day in Their Shoes. His name is Michael Dempster, and Michael will tell his story at the top of the show. And so he and I were sitting in my office the other day, and we were practicing, and right now I'm having some of my own mental health issues kind of reoccur, and I was sitting there going, I should tell him that I'm not feeling great today, and I was like, no, I won't tell him because, what's he going to think? I'm sitting here coaching him. So I'm living it, I'm working in the environment, and I'm sitting here and I'm like having things going on inside of my body, and I'm coaching him through his talk, but I'm experiencing it myself, and I was like, no, I'm not going to tell him. And then I got home later and I went, you know what? I am going to tell him. So I'd messaged him on Facebook and I said, hey, you said some things today that resonated with me that I was able to kind of settle myself down. But I said, interesting that I was kind of embarrassed to tell you when I live it and breathe it every day.
So
and
even when you know what you should do, it's hard to do that.
It's hard, yeah. It's like you have this vulnerability that you don't want to show to people. I'm looking at him going, well, what's he going to think if I tell him that, you know what, I'm not feeling very well right now. I'm going through something, and he's looking up to me for support for him to help move him through this MC process that he's doing for the very first time. So it was an interesting thing that made me pull back on Monday night when I was sitting at home, and I said, I'm just going to message him and say, I wasn't feeling well today.
It's a conversation that should really start as soon as we're able to have that conversation when we're young and build those defenses.
And so, we were at a rehearsal last week, and I want to bring JM into this conversation because I want him to tell us, and he looks at me, oh no. I want him to really tell us about and Tom is here as well, to tell us about their project Alive, Vivant.
Vivant.
Yeah. And so you can kind of get a sense of their story. But what came out the other night when we were during rehearsal was magical, Brittany. If you remember when JM and Gaetan, when we were sitting down and they were talking about trying to tell their stories and how to get their stories out, but then the two of them just started having a conversation with each other. And, I had goosebumps, and we were like, wow, like that's how you get your story out. Have the conversation with each other, the three of them, because they're so connected with each other. So, JM, want to tell us a little bit about Project Alive?
Oh, Lord, thanks for the spotlight. Well, Project Alive, Vivant, was something, let's start this way. I joined the military when I was 17 years old. That's all I've known. So they pretty much gave me my identity since I'm a teenager. So 18 years later, I can't do my job in the military no more. I'm getting released medically, and I kind of have to reinvent myself with what's left of me, basically. So that was very hard, and when I went through the transition, I knew deep inside that what my interests were in arts. But they didn't really have anything about arts. So what they want to hear, or they think you're going to say, well, I want a job, I want to, which most people, they do. Me, I said, well, I want to do music, I want to do arts, this is what I want to do, really. And they had nothing. So this is where I started thinking about maybe there's others like me that wants to do this. So, with seeking, I found other guys like Gaetan and Tom and them, and then we just starting getting together, and yeah, we just connected, not just because we were veterans, but because we all have interest in music and arts. And it started to grow because we felt confident, we felt in a good place. You know, a lot of veterans, they go out, they go in bike clubs and stuff. Well, this is our bike club, but we just do music together, and it really helps, you know, and we all have our down days too, and we're always there for each other. So it's just like a way to keep the brotherhood going, you know, and sisterhood, obviously. So yeah, and what we do right now, like we try to get out there and play music for old folks and old people home. We try to, you know, find gigs here and there, and just it gives us purpose, and it gets us out of our basements, because there's so much scattered basement artists within the veterans community that are doing their own thing, and they don't even know that others like them. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell. I mean, it's growing, and it's great, and I'm really happy about what's become so far.
I can say with parroting what JM had said, was that myself personally, I hear the word stigma all the time, and I served 29 years, and after 19 years, I crashed the race car, and it was a lot of fun. But I was a leader. I had soldiers that had PTSD, and I never forget crashing myself and having to go to see somebody at mental health and trying to hide, going into the building and trying to hide my car so nobody knows that it's there. I changed my mind after I came back to my office one day, and I walked in and I overheard over a cubicle 2 of my soldiers talking about the struggle they were having. And I just said, this is completely wrong. I'm the boss. And I had to stand up and go around the corner and say, you know what, boys, I apologize, but I heard what you're saying, and I need you to know that you're not alone.
And there's definitely a stigma, because I remember 10 years ago, I was still in uniform, just a young soldier, and I remember there was this older guy. He came to talk to us. It was part of a course, and this is when PTSD was starting to get a little bit more known. So they were starting to get some awareness about it, and this guy came to talk to us, a bunch of soldiers. I remember like it was yesterday, he started crying in front of us, and we all were shocked. And I remember thinking, are we allowed to swear on there? No, 'cause I was going to swear, but I'll just, it's good I had a little flag in my brain. But I remember looking at him and saying, sorry.
I'm going to have to listen to the rant
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
I personally think that we should be able to.
Yeah.
More on that later.
Well, thank God I didn't. Well, anyways, back to I was saying that I remember looking at my buddies, and I said, what a freaking pansy. What a freaking pansy. Look at him crying like a little baby up front. Be a man. You know what I mean? Be a man. Be a soldier. Get out there. Stop crying and whining. And that's the mentality, you know, and look at me now.
Wow, that is so amazing that you can actually admit to that.
Oh, yeah. I can admit,
very,
because
very strange to be, you know, to see people doing things, and then all of a sudden inside yourself you can't let it out.
Do you find that once you start the conversation that people come out and share the same things with you that you never thought before?
Well, I deal with a lot of veterans who have PTSD. I've worked with probably over 100 in the last couple of years, and everything is very common.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is hiding in their basements. They don't want to come out. They don't want to do anything. I met JM at the dog park because that was my safe space.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I used to go to have joy, and we just got to talking, and the next thing you know, we were connected, and that was it.
And how many members are there now in your...
well, it's not like people sometimes they misinterpret it that it's not an organization, it's a fellowship. So there's no definite number, and it's even sometimes it's just virtual too. It's that we know we're there, and we talk to each other either on the internet or physically when we see each other. But I'd say like we have a good fellowship right now in Gagetown, Fredericton area. There's another one in Valcartier, Quebec City, that's just starting to grow, and basically we keep each other updated of events that are coming up, and there's no pushing around. Like, I'm not trying to push anybody into it. So people read, they see what's going on, and they'll volunteer. Oh yeah, I'd love to go play for the old people home, and they'll come and they'll play a few songs and stuff like that. So it's just activities that's going on, and they're aware of it, and if they want to participate, they go. If they don't, they don't.
JM's built something where we support each other. We have musicians, we have keyboard players, guitar players, fiddle players. We got people that own light systems and sound systems, and I mean, you name it. And like he said, the virtual part, when somebody puts on a show, usually we show up, and we're there to cheer everybody on, and we don't care what your level of musicianship is or whether you can sing or can't sing. We need you to get up.
So if people want to connect with Project Alive, Projet Vivant, how do they do that?
If they want to, we have a Facebook page. It's Project in bracket Alive, Projet in bracket Vivant. So put down Facebook. You can send us a message. There's pictures and videos there too. People want to look at what we do, and so yeah, we don't have people dealing with social media, so we kind of do what we can, but it gives people an idea when they look at what's going on.
We will put a link to your Facebook site on our Facebook page for
Thank
this
you.
broadcast, so people, if they're listening, they can connect directly with you.
Yeah, I got to put JM on the spot there and grab his guitar out. Do a tune for us.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Oh, Lord Almighty.
This is a kitchen party here right
Yeah, that's right. There are no rules here.
now. No rules, just think of it as we're in a kitchen party right now.
I'll get my spoons.
Look, I heard his voice, and I was mesmerized by his voice. The very first song I heard him play was actually Hallelujah, and there's 3 of us sitting here have connections with this song Hallelujah. He plays it and sings it beautifully. It was my inspiration song when I was going through my anxiety condition, and it was the Katie Lang version of it that I loved. And Brittany opened for Katie Lang at the Moncton Casino last
I
year.
almost fell off my chair when she told me that day. I don't know, it just blew my mind.
It was definitely an honor, and that was when I first really was very open about my experience with depression on that stage. It was kind of like this is me being myself, and this is kind of how I'm going to be going forward. And it was the biggest stage I'd had, and I knew that they knew what I was all about, and that was kind of who I was. And so I decided to kind of take that opportunity to talk about mental health. Yeah, and I remember Katie Lang's best friend came up to me after the show, and she was like, Brittany, that was so, you always need to do that. Just do this. This is who you are. It was beautiful. Be real. And that just, when you have someone, come up and tell you that right afterwards, when you're kind of going through, was that good? Or
should I not
yeah. But yeah, a number of people did, and some people in the audience as well came up to my merch table, and they were everybody was sharing their stories. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever experienced in my life. And so I thought, I need a lifetime of this. People healing together. I share my story, I open that up, and they can tell their story to me or to other people in their lives, right?
Absolutely.
The more normal we make all of this, the healthier everybody's going to be, the safer everyone is, right?
That is so, so, so true.
Yeah.
You are so right.
Yeah, and we want people to be authentic. We were joking around out in your green room a minute ago, and we were like, JM, what are you going to wear? And he's like, I don't know, what should I wear? But really, I want them to be authentic to themselves. So they come and they be themselves. Just the same as last year when we did the fashion show part of A Day in Their Shoes. I didn't have makeup artists come in. I didn't have hairstylists come in. It was clothing from Robert Simmons and Samuel & Co., but that was really a means to get people to a stage. We really want to have people be their authentic selves, because that's what connects with the person sitting in the audience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so when you said earlier about, when you tell your story, do people come up and connect with you? On International Women's Day, I told my story at the Lieutenant Governor's house for the very first time. And Brittany
It was beautiful.
Brittany was there with me.
I was
as
very
well.
emotional.
Brittany and Lori are the duo right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I had so many people come to me afterwards and say, wow, like, your story is my story. And I can't believe when you talk about, you know, is it just everyday people, or people would look at somebody and say, oh, they have a mental illness, because they might look the stereotypical way, or somebody else might be go, really? So I was that really person. Like, people that knew me in the audience came up to me afterwards too, and they were like, wow, Lori, like, I had no idea that you would suffer through something like that. You look so strong and put together. And I'm like, I absolutely did suffer through it, and for 4 years. And, you know, it was tough.
It's a long time.
It was
Yeah.
2-year stints. So it happened to me when I was 32, and then 10 years later it happened to me again. And it, both times was situational for me.
I think a lot of people think that they can't talk about it because maybe it might impact their career or the way people see them. And so depending on what your role is in society or in your workplace, you feel less and less like you're able to actually talk about it. That's a bit of my story as well, is that I was kind of going a direction and it wasn't the right healthy direction for me. But I think the more we share and everybody shares, it's going to get easier for people to talk about it, make it so normal that it's not a big thing. It's not even an issue that is like, oh, someone's talking about mental health right now. It's like, oh, well, that's just a normal thing, you know? That's what I would love to see.
And maybe we'll get those cards and casseroles when we're off for something.
And maybe we can say, this is what I'm off work for.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
another thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
To be able
That's
to
always
just
been
message your boss and say, you know what, I
Yeah.
need a mental health day today.
Absolutely. That's always been one of my
Instead of calling in and going,
Yeah.
or
yeah, I'm sick today.
Because
and
society
I can't
accepts
come
that
in.
that's illness.
or
Yeah.
people
Right.
with children too.
Yes.
Yeah.
A child is sick. Well, I don't have children, but
Right.
Yeah.
maybe I need a day too.
Yes,
It's
absolutely.
always been a huge pet peeve for me.
That's
Yeah,
right.
it's not a weakness, and if we can show that people who are strong, everyone has this inner strength, right? And if you can pair that strength with saying, hey, there's this struggle or whatever that I have, it doesn't mean that you're not strong. You're actually more strong
right.
for being able to talk about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it means you're going to come back the next day feeling better.
Right.
Rather
Yes.
than getting progressively worse because you didn't take that time.
Right.
That's right.
Which I've had happen to me before.
Yeah. Oh,
I couldn't
same.
call in sick. Could not. Oh my God, you did not call in sick. You just went to work, no matter how you were feeling, mentally or physically. You went
Yeah.
to work.
Yeah.
Man, I know that that's pretty standard, and I would love in my lifetime to see that completely change. And I think we have someone who may share a song with us, possibly. How are you open for? I mean, we can talk about mental health forever. So there.
I want you guys to hear his voice.
He's incredible, really.
I was
Yeah,
listening
yeah.
to some of your videos on Facebook yesterday, and yeah, you've got a great voice.
Well, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks for the pressure too.
No pressure.
He's amazing.
There's no
everyone.
pressure at all here.
Well, you know, I can play a song, and it's a song I wrote about being vulnerable. So I'll be vulnerable right now and express that I'm terrified
Yeah.
to sing on the
good.
radio. And it is morning too, so never done that. Yeah, in a nutshell, the song is I don't know about the other mental health conditions. I know PTSD. Sometimes there's that person inside that looks what's going on the outside, and you're stuck when it's time to give love, when it's time to say something nice. You want to, but you can't. Whether it's with your children, with your spouse, and you want, but you can't. So you kind of stuck inside, and this is kind of a cry to, I want to be vulnerable again. I might do some mistakes. I mean, I'm nervous, so
It's vulnerability.
That's okay.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the way is straight. I am walking to the edge of life alone. I'm alone. Don't want to be, let me be proud of my bride. Beautiful agony, exposed and free, alive. I'm alive, yeah. Take me to the sea, through the storm, drift away, free from me. With one cry, I wanna be taken away with one voice, with one cry. I wanna be taken away. I wanna be taken away. I wanna be taken away. To the unknown, no destination home. No, 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 no harm, no harm. Understand, my garment is my sin, and I trust the way. Take me to the sea, through the storm, drift away, free from me. Yeah. With one voice, with one cry, I wanna be taken away with one voice, with one cry. I wanna be taken away. I wanna be taken away. I wanna be taken away.
Thanks, JM. You got a room full of crying women and me.
That's okay. This room is used to tears. I cry quite frequently, as John can attest to.
Every week.
Every week. Check.
That was absolutely gorgeous. So, JM, do you just are you solo always, or do you have do you sometimes play with other musicians? You do, right?
Yeah, we do.
Just sometimes when they're willing to participate.
Yeah. Sometimes
Okay.
we do like collaborations, and then if something matches with different instruments. Yeah.
Right.
Doing some recording.
Yeah, we do some recordings too. All veterans, all veterans, man. So it's cool.
That is awesome.
Do you find that music lets you connect and communicate with people in a way that you couldn't otherwise?
Well, it's a way for me to because singing in public, singing and expressing is making you vulnerable. So I found a lot of healing in that this is my way of getting out of my shell. And sometimes it's extremely hard, and especially different settings too. There's a lot of things going through in my head at the time. But definitely it's a way that because you're really exposed when you sing.
But we can all attest to what we just saw happen in here.
Yeah.
He was quite nervous, and look at the way he powered through that song once he started to feel it and connect with it, right?
Inspirational.
Yeah.
You did not. There was not any nervousness that I heard.
You guys didn't see my guitar shaking?
Not at all. We only heard your beautiful
We were
voice.
mesmerized by his voice, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And that's another thing. I think people always just put themselves on the, in the spotlight and just think everybody is judging them, like, so much. Like, and that's the way we're brought up, I think, our generation or my generation, to be just judged for everything you say, everything you do. And it's just hard to get past that. Get over that and just realize that people are there supporting you and liking what you're doing, not being critical.
Yeah, and what I've been learning lately is even if not everybody can like you, even if they do
That's
judge you,
right.
if you really believe in what you're doing, or even if you're just being yourself, it does not matter.
It doesn't.
Now I'm saying that, and that's something I'm learning right now that's really impacting my mental health. It's like, you know what? Not everybody's going to be into what I do. And that's okay because I know why I'm doing it, and I know that at least I'm being real, right?
That's
I think it's
absolutely right,
important.
Brittany.
So
that's so
yeah.
true, and that's something I've been going through a lot. Also.
Yeah,
Like,
I think it's pretty
Tammy,
normal.
Not everybody's gonna like you. Some people are gonna really just,
And we don't owe it to them to make them like us.
Not changing
No.
At this point.
It's a badge of honor if certain people don't like you, Tammy. That means you're doing something right.
That's a good point.
That is a good point,
That's
John.
a good point.
That's why I have John as my co-host.
Yeah.
He's like co-host / therapist.
That's
Likes it or not.
Poor you.
That's like friendships, though. We help each other out, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. How did you guys all come to know each other?
Through me,
Lori.
really.
Lori's a
Through me.
connector, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
It's a strength you have.
My background is the broadcast industry, and I had the privilege of being around musicians and music for 26 years. And so when I came to CMHA as the director of communications, I kind of wanted to bring these kinds of performances and shows to raise awareness and to help raise funds and stuff. So I talked earlier about how I met JM, and then through Brittany we met because CMHA was a finalist in the Chamber of Commerce Business Excellence Awards for the nonprofit sector in 2017, and Brittany's family does the videos for that awards night. And so when Krista was there having her video done, she met Brittany, and she said, you gotta kind of meet this girl. And just so happens, probably a week before, a friend of mine who is a cousin of Brittany's had posted a video, and it's when you had performed with Katie Lang.
Yeah.
And I listened to it, and I said, I'm going to reach out to her and talk with her. And this is it. We had Brittany perform at a women and wellness event in Moncton back in February, and I was mesmerized by her then. She had a room full of women in tears, and I asked her, would she be a part of this with the guys? So I wanted to have a couple of different things. I wanted to have the male and the female voices. I wanted to have a variety of mental health conditions so that people in the audience can connect with, whether it's through Brittany's story or JM's story or Tom's story or Martin's story or Gaetan's story. Like, everybody is different. And so to put together that kind of a show, I think would really resonate with people, but also really give them a good variety of things to kind of take away from.
What would you like to see happen at the governmental level? Because it seems to me mental health is a much ignored thing, and generally the prison system is that's how people are treated. They get shuffled off into prisons, or they end up on the streets. And there's not, if mental health is an illness, then why are we not treating it like an illness? Why is the funding not there? You know, if you have a heart attack, there's a system in place. You go to the hospital. You know, a whole sequence of events falls into place if you get sick in that way. But if you get sick mentally, it seems to me the support systems are just not there at all.
We are working with government, advocating for mental health funding, and that is moving forward. We are moving forward in a positive way. In terms of the healthcare budget itself, when we look at that, we have about 7 to 9% of the healthcare budget allocated to mental health. That's not okay. That's not appropriate. So we're starting to have discussions around the physical health and the mental health component, and those budgets should be equal. And we need to move forward on that work.
Is the mental health budget in the military better or worse than in the general population?
I would say that at this point, I'm going to take a guess that it's probably better. When I first wound up in this situation back in 2007, I knew about PTSD. I had people in my platoon that had PTSD, but it was almost like a joke type thing where, you know, somebody would come up and say, "Hey, Sarge, I'm going off to get my headspace and timing checked." And I'd be like, "What are you talking about?" And they'd say, "Oh, I'm going over to see the doctor." And I'd say, "Off you go." And when I came through this in 2007 and then in 2008, I wound up in the hospital after a panic attack. I didn't know where to turn. And it wasn't really well recognized. And a lot of it was directly related to Afghanistan, and that was it. And now in 2018, we're seeing that these things build up over time. And it's like, you know, for me, it's 29 years of dealing with people dying, tragedies and stuff like that. And it just takes a little chip out of you at a time. And I think the system today is much better than what it was. It still is a long way to go.
Yeah, and it's one thing to throw money at a situation, but is it being diverted in the right way?
I couldn't speak to that from them.
From my perspective, because I'm going through it right now, they're getting a lot better, and I've had a lot of support, especially from the transition units. They didn't pressure me. They listened to me. They tried to help me instead of telling me what I need, which they used to be pretty good at that. I'm going to tell you what you need, and you're going to do it, and you're going to shut up about it.
Yeah.
Now, they really had an ear for what I had to say, and that really, really helped me. So I can be considered a success story at this point, but there's also guys that are not as successful, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And they're there, and just to give you an example, we kind of laugh about it, but, you know, it's like I was on Facebook the other day, and there was a picture of one of my friends in Afghanistan. He's just commenting on how muscular he used to be back then, and we're just commenting about it. It's really late at night, and there's other guys from the same platoon that started commenting about it, and next thing you know, there's about like 6-7 guys just commenting on that and making jokes about that and everything. And one guy just said, "Hey guys, it's like 2 a.m. Everybody just take your freaking pill and go to bed." You know, and it's funny, but in the same time, it's true. So there's a lot of cases, and still a lot of guys. Like for me, I lived with it for a decade, not knowing what it was. I didn't know. I just didn't know what it was. I thought I was cursed, honestly. I really thought I was cursed.
Yeah.
That's the first thought that came in my mind. Yeah, but I think what it needs to happen, and I think it's getting there, is just is the people to be cognizant and have an ear to those guys, and for those guys to feel comfortable coming out or saying, "You know what, I think I got a problem." And that's the issue. Like for me, like I said, more than a decade, I didn't tell anybody. You can ask my wife. My wife witnessed me, for example, evacuating my house in the middle of the night with my children and my dog and herself. because I thought the house was going to explode. But it sounds crazy, but it is true. I thought, like, I knew. It's like knowing. I knew the house was going to explode. That was my world at that moment. So I grabbed the kids, I grabbed everybody, go outside in the truck, and drove away. And everybody's looking at me like I'm an alien. What's going on with me? Until you come back to your senses. But that's just normal day.
And the more the conversation happens, the more people will realize that that is normal, right? It's not crazy in quotes. It's normal to respond to war that way or whatever else it is that may trigger a mental health
Exactly.
crisis.
Wow, guys, I can't believe how fast this went. Like,
I know,
could
I was
stay
just
here
looking
all
at the
day.
clock.
And we wanted to play your song, and I don't think we have time.
That's totally fine. No, it's more important to get the
Okay.
conversation going about what people are going to be sharing that night. I think this is just kind of a little sneak preview of more conversations we're going to be having on the stage at the Delta Monday.
Right.
Let's
Oh,
recap while we
thank
have
you
time. The
so
event is
much.
when and where?
So the event is Monday night. It's called A Day in Their Shoes, a Songwriter's Circle. It's at the Delta. Doors open at 6:30. Show starts at 7:30. Tickets are available at Griffin's Pub in Oromocto for $25. Reed's Newsstand in downtown Fredericton. They're on eventbrite.ca and for $25, but there's also limited tickets on there that for a pay what you can. So we hope to see so we hope to see as many people out as we can on Monday night. And the stories are true, real, raw, authentic, but they're inspiring. And so that's kind of what I'll leave that with.
It's going to be a great and informative event.
Absolutely. And I just want to say thank you again, everybody, so much for being here. And thank you, Tom and Lori and Brittany and JM and Krista. It was so nice to meet you guys.
Yes.
And
Thank
what
you.
an enjoyable hour this has been. And it's went way too fast. And I want to say thanks, everybody, for listening to CHSR 97.9 FM Instant Breakfast on this Thursday with this fantastic little unit.
We'll try to get a podcast of
Yes,
this up this week
absolutely.
so that you can share this with people and
Yeah.
communicate with
We will.
anyone who may not have had an opportunity to listen to your conversation.
And I'll send you email with the links
Thank
for
you
your
so
Facebook.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for having us here.
Absolutely.
Really
Anytime.
appreciate it. Do you have something?
Yeah, Krista. Oh.
Yes?
Well, I just wanted to again acknowledge that next week is Mental Health Week. So
Okay.
for Canadian mental health, we're asking everyone in this province to get loud for mental health.
We will start by making tons of music on Monday night.
That's right.